A Countdown Online Extra with the actor and environmental activist Mark Ruffalo. And good to see you again since a minute ago when we finished the TV show.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I want to talk a couple of things here. More about your concerns about fracking and what you're doing about this, and then sort of broadening this out to when people do proactive things about their life and use their success in a public field. Let me start with this, with fracking and what you hope to do. You talked about on the show about trying to convince Governor Cuomo not to relax the rules about fracking in the state. Where do the rules stand now? Are they adequate? Or are they temporarily adequate?
They're woefully inadequate. There's no public health analysis.
Yeah.
There's no long-term environmental impact study that's been completed. They don't know what to do with this toxic waste that are coming out. They want to deem it a medical type waste. So the companies themselves will be in charge of inventorying it and saying where they go. This is an industry that is the dirtiest, slimiest, most arrogant and negligent that you could imagine. Everywhere they go, they wreak havoc. Everywhere they go. You want to know how they're lying? Their mouths are moving.
It sounds to me like this is on a par with what they're doing to open up these reserves, to just essentially break a bottle and catch whatever comes out and leave the broken glass everywhere.
Yeah.
Or they might as well be using small nuclear charges down there for all the impact that they're having.
They might as well be. I mean, how do we know that isn't where we're headed?
I'm going to say, if they were, would we have any way to stop them?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's what this has led me to understand is this is about our energy future. This is the last ditch effort for a carbon-based industry to kill the green movement. If they can flood our energy landscape with what they think is cheap gas, they turn our entire system over to a gas-based system. Right now it's mostly coal. That's 40 more years of carbon. We can't take 40 more years of carbon. And it will kill the green energy movement in this country. Right now, the green energy movement is on the rise, 65% gains in solar. We see the jobs moving forward. It's having an explosion all over the world. It's a consumer-driven revolution that's happening right now, without any subsidies. And this is what you see is this last-ditch effort to industrialize enormous amounts of the American countryside. And what is at stake here is water. They used 150 billion gallons of water last year. This water can't be remediated. It's coming back out with uranium in it. It's coming back out with heavy salts. They were trying to run it through our sanitation processing plants, and it was shutting them down.
Goodness.
So that water, of the 100% of water that is on the planet, only 20% of that is fresh water. Now, we're suffering droughts in the southern states, like the likes of which we haven't seen in recent history. And we are taking that kind of water out of our fresh water table, never to be seen again. And we're actually looking at that as a viable alternative. There's a whole movement of some hangers-on that think that gas is the answer to bridging us. Gas is the bridge to nowhere, guys. Gas is the bridge to another 40 years of carbon.
And they are those advertisements with that one actress from, I forget where else she is, but she is now the gas woman.
Yes.
And which
She's
is
a gas hole.
she is the exact. Right, absolutely. It's the internet. What the hell? But the amount of money that obviously they bet on this, they're all in. I mean, if you beat them, at least they perceive, if you beat them, if the anti-fracking movement beats them, they're out of business. So they're putting all their chips on the table.
It's all chips in. This is the game.
Now, the fight back against fracking. To what degree do you think that owes to the movie Gasland? because it seems to me that this is one of those occasions where something theoretically in the arts, a documentary, a commercially released film, actually did much better of a job covering this than any news organization or even many of the environmentally driven public policy organizations.
It did. It cracked the nut. And you know, what was happening is this was happening in the poor rural areas. And there's a greater and greater disconnect between those areas and our media coverage. And he was able to go and show the people who are the victims of this. Disaffected people, people who are just getting by. They are the victims of this. They don't have a voice. They don't have a connection to the media. And so Josh, in his genius, in his naivete, decided he'd pick up a camera and go and discover America. And ended up giving voice to a population that had been all but forgotten. And these people need that money. And they're basically just being bought off. I mean, I heard there was 5,000 NDAs that have been signed.
NDAs?
Non-disclosure agreements.
Oh, God.
So once your life has been ruined, your home, I mean, your home is worthless after this has happened. No one's going to buy it. The banks won't give you a mortgage on it. Once that's happened, who do you turn to? The victim has to turn back to the perpetrator and beg them for...
It's a perfect fix if you're a business, but there is always the one wild card in all these equations.
Josh Fox.
Well, Josh Fox and Mark Ruffalo and anybody who goes out and takes a stand on something, whether it's a series of public protests and public stances. I'm thinking of Martin Sheen suddenly, who's spent half of his life protesting something on the right side of the equation, the correct side of the equation. Were you always socially active? Were you always culturally? Were you always political, or was this just something this personal to you and it drew you out?
Well, I went to an acting school where social activism was part of the agenda. Stella Adler used to say that you had a responsibility as an artist, not just as an actor, but just as an artist, to give voice to those who don't have a voice, to champion social justice. And that was a very big thing. She really saw that as a responsibility of the artist. She saw that in the plays. She used to say, it was a George Bernard Shaw quote, but she used to say, "Darlings, you should have to pay to go to church and the theater should be free." And so that was kind of that was the world I was steeped in. But when you're a young man and you're struggling and you're out in the world and you're making your bones, you don't have time to do this stuff.
And there is a risk to it, isn't there? There is a certain.
I've had people tell me all the time, "You're totally crazy. You're nuts. They're gonna come after you." There's a chilling effect that's happened to Hollywood. I'll just tell you one brief anecdotal story.
Please.
Where I really got activated was the Iraq War.
Yeah. Well, me too.
And I know, I followed you. And I was on the, it was the day before we were going to war, and they had shut down the press lines for the Academy Awards. Remember that?
Yep.
And there was the Independent Spirit Awards before the Academy Awards. And that press line was open. And I'm walking down that press line. And I get to CNN. And CNN puts a mic in my face and says, "So what do you think about the blacklist against actors who speak out against the war?" Can you
Might as well hand you. Here's a noose. What do you think you can do with this in 10 words or less?
And I had the clarity in that moment to say, why in the hell is CNN asking me, why are you introducing the idea of a blacklist to actors on a press line? I've never heard of a blacklist before. Why is CNN asking me that? And that was sort of, but that was it. That set the chill.
I don't know if you've heard this one. I was back at the place I used to work for 1 week. I was back in news like 1 year, and I'd done nothing political in that time. done news at MSNBC, went and did sports, went and did news again. The first week of the old Countdown show was entirely about the Iraq War, and it was entirely me sitting at a desk like this and saying, and now we'll go to such and such in Baghdad, or here embedded with the 7th or whatever. That's all it was. There wasn't one bit of anti-war protest in there. There wasn't time for it. It was just live pictures.
This is what's
it was
happening. Yep.
Exactly what it was supposed to be. The following Sunday, I was at Shea Stadium at a Mets game, and two kids, late teens, early 20s, walk up to me, starting to ask for an autograph, and the second kid behind him goes, "No, F that guy. He's a liberal," and they just sort of staggered off. And I thought, the only thing I said was, "Here's such and such," with nothing approaching it. Where did the idea became that I was a liberal, and then it hit me. All right, if I'm going to be called a liberal for what I've done, which is basically nothing but report the actual news and maybe raise a couple of questions over the course of a couple of years, nothing serious. If they're going to call me that anyway, maybe that's what I should be. Maybe maybe they gave me a license to do that, and that was my sort of clarity moment. You just sort of you do sort of realize that a camera, whether it's one of these or a film camera, is both a platform and a responsibility, right?
Yes.
And you have to take that chance, because otherwise, what exactly did you do? Oh, I did a great job. I did a great job memorizing and interpreting and breathing life to those lines. That was it, huh? That was the whole life.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. Right?
Neither do you.
Well, all right, but it's sort of vaguely in my territory.
Yes.
This is to some degree outside of your wheelhouse.
I've been called. I've had my share of getting beaten up on about it. But you get a choice in your life. You could do what's right, or you could put your head in the sand. You get a chance to do what's right, and you do it, whether you win or not. But you know it's right, and that's the choice you get to make.
So how far do you take this? I mean, is this your end of your progression in this regard, or do you see something further, more activism, or many people have gone from activism into actually seeking office or whatever? I mean, I'm just throwing it out here. I'm not trying to encourage you or discourage you.
No.
Although you seem like a sane man, so maybe politics isn't your game.
It's probably not my place. Honestly, I'd rather be home with my kids right now.
Yeah, I think that's exact. See, that's it. That's the litmus test.
And I'm sort of doing this because I feel compelled to. I feel like it's. There's not a lot of other people doing it. I'm trying to get some other people doing it.
What about news? What about things like this?
I'm not smart enough for this.
Oh, all right. See, I will overcome that fact too. I'm not smart enough for this either. But I mean, it's serious. Being involved in some capacity on some sort of.
Yeah, I'd probably be interested. I mean, I would be interested in that.
Would it sort of extend to this show? Would you be interested in being involved in this show?
I would love to be.
Like we have these contributors who are sort of we do something for them, either for charity or whatever.
Yeah.
And that just
sure, I'd love to do that.
Then we get you a little keychain that says you're a Countdown contributor. We get to introduce you as a Countdown contributor.
Are you asking me to be a contributor?
I'm asking you to be
on
national internet?
National
Yes.
internet?
On national internet
I
for
do.
all time. Oh, isn't that exciting?
That's awesome.
Welcome to this. Here's the secret handshake. There it is. It's just an ordinary. That's and then it's at that. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Serious. Serious.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. This is your specialty, then. When there are developments with this is your specialty.
Let's go green energy. Let's take it one step further.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think it's enough just to say no to something.
Right. What's the alternative?
Let's bring in there, and is there an alternative? And it's happening. There's a solar jobs bill in our legislature right now. 20,000 jobs guaranteed starting tomorrow. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's change our required renewable standard portfolio for our state.
Right.
Let's bring in longevity. Let's bring in all the great energy companies that want to come and help in New York State.
And let's stop pumping crap into the ground with the assumption that it's never going to come shooting out again, like in The Simpsons.
Let's move on, man. The fossil age is over. We can do it. We can do it. It's time.
The actor and activist and Countdown contributor, Mark Ruffalo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And my condolences as well for your new appointment.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
very honored. That's really awesome.
It's been a pleasure to spend so much time with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.